Hello, my name is Hodan Yosef, and this is my sign name. I work for the Deaf Culture Center, and we're conducting interviews across the country with different deaf professional artists, political advocates, educators, and today we have the privilege of interviewing you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself as an artist?
Yes. Hi. Hello. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Paula Wesley, and I'm an artist and a sculptor. I fell in love with art as a child.
Perfect. In your bio, in the introduction, is there something that you can add that we don't know about you? Maybe something unique or funny about yourself, or something that you remembered from your past?
Okay. I was thinking on this, and what comes to mind is my partner, Tom, and I have been together for 15 years. And it's interesting. He's Scottish. What I love is that he's kept me from moving back to Vancouver, Canada. Ironically, I'm from Terrace. I'm a small town girl. I'm not meant for living in the big city.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. When you became an adult, or as you were growing up, who inspired you?
Wow, that's a really good question. There are 3 people who've really inspired me. Both my grandmothers, Rena Bolton Point. She was an artist. She wove cedar baskets. She made headdresses and clothing of all kinds. Also, my other grandmother, Myrtle Laidlaw, she made beautiful quilts and did sculpting as well. Not so much anymore, but when she was younger. And thirdly, my grandfather. He was a world-renowned jade sculptor. Are you familiar with jade? Do you know what it looks like? It's a green stone. It's a very hard stone, and it's a difficult material to work with.
Oh.
My grandma, Rena, and my grandfather are recognized around the world for their work, and all 3 of them inspired me to become the artist that I am today. When I was a child growing up, I saw them doing their art, and it inspired me.
That's fantastic that you could learn those traditions from your grandparents. What motivates you now to advocate for your work?
I've been fighting for recognition of our language and culture. You can't separate the language from the culture. For example, design of our cultural dress or regalia, masks and other things relate back to our dance, oral traditions and stories. We've learned from different nations, and it's important for us to advocate and fight for our culture. Even though I'm deaf, my grandparents didn't see me as deaf, but as a human being. I learned to be independent, to be assertive, and get involved with my culture, and advocate and fight for things that affect our community. There have been historical impacts in our community, and it's time to teach our new generation of Indigenous youth. And that's where I come in, to advocate for our culture, language, and to become a knowledge keeper.
That's amazing. Thank you. What do you hope that the community of Indigenous people see in your work, in your art, that you're advocating for? What do you want them to see and understand from your visual art? And what kind of impact do you want to have as an artist?
Well, I want to emphasize as an artist, I need to focus on my work. Regardless of the kinds of art or media that you create, you could be a photographer, a videographer, an actor. You need to focus. And that means turning off distractions. Turn off your smartphone and other devices. Close your door. Roll up your sleeves and get down to work. Nowadays, social media tends to be more of a distraction, but you need to get in touch with your creativity and incorporate who you are. Whether your work is beautiful or not, show it. That's where we need to put more focus on. Incorporate your values, who you are, your culture, and your language as well.
So, looking back on your experiences growing up, what are you most proud of? And what was your biggest obstacle? And how did you overcome it?
That's a good question. The biggest challenge is limitations on my deafness. Not having sign language interpretation because I live in a small community means I have to fly to bigger centers like Vancouver. I go there generally for art shows, exhibits, and other events. Even then, I need the services of an interpreter. It's not a perfect solution because there are time constraints. For example, I may only have an interpreter for 2 hours. When I was growing up, my grandparents taught me to be assertive and strong and not to be afraid to ask for help. They stress the importance to ask for what I need and not to be shy about it. It never hurts to ask, right?
That's true.
So thanks to my family and them, that strength is part of who I am. If there are barriers, I ask if an interpreter can be arranged and who I can contact to book an interpreter or who might be able to cover the cost. If the organization isn't sure, I offer to reach out to various organizations and community services to see what might be out there. It's important to break down those barriers. It's our right to have translation and interpretation services.
Absolutely. You have a right to have access to language and interpreters, for sure. What in your life makes you feel most proud?
My artwork and seeing my Indigenous community and non-Indigenous folks give me the opportunity to express myself in dance, song, or in sign language. One of my proudest moments was in dance. I love to dance. It's a cultural thing. I feel liberated, beautiful, and proud to be part of my dance group where I can wear my regalia. I'm proud that I made it myself. I made my headdress, my dress, shoes, and everything. I can express who I am and take pride in seeing people from my community. I feel a deep sense of connection, seeing our men and women dancing and our men drumming. There's an energy in the air. It's difficult to describe, but I feel inspired and my spirit is uplifted.
Someday, I'm definitely going to come and visit you and experience your culture.
For sure, come.
Yes, it feels so empowering. What is the most important advice you can give others related to your profession, your artwork?
Don't be afraid to ask. I'll mention that again. Do your research and your homework. Check online. It's important. Use platforms like Zoom and MailChimp, Facebook, really any social media. Email, go in person if it's possible. Perhaps not right now because of the situation. But I've networked and I've asked for help and I've gotten feedback and I've asked how I can give talks and show my work. I'm open to critiques or feedback of my work. It's not about being wrong or right. I try to keep an open heart and mind. Being open to it means I can adjust my work and try different approaches and get new ideas to take me out of my comfort zone. I need to get out of my box and be open to new ideas and information. I've networked with different artists, and I'm open to feedback and critiques from non-artists as well. I like it when someone finds my work beautiful, but also when someone doesn't understand my story, painting, or sculpture. I'm always willing to explain the story behind it. If there are barriers, that's okay. I'm deaf and I'm Indigenous. Sometimes I struggle as an Indigenous person. I like to attend events or shows, but most of the time there are no interpreter services available because of financial reasons. I might get an interpreter for 2 hours during the opening of an exhibit, but not in the weeks leading up to the show. Don't be afraid to ask for more funding or grant money and specify that you need extra funds to remove those barriers and have access to communication. If I'm joining an event in the deaf community, it's already deaf-friendly. At the same time, I feel somewhat removed because whether it's artists or non-artists, they don't recognize me, or they spotlight people of color. For example, Black, Asian, Spanish artists. Perhaps it's because there's a strong presence in the newspapers, magazines, or television. But I'm Indigenous and I'm deaf too. As an Indigenous person, I've been thinking it might be time for us, for everyone in the community, to have an open discussion. Inviting Indigenous artists to be part of the diversity group so we're not forgotten. I struggle with that because of my indigeneity. We should have an open dialogue so we can feel included. I would like to see an open discussion and dialogue, conversation, so that I feel included. It's important.
I agree with you 100%. BIPOC, Indigenous need to come together, recognize the diversity. This is your native land, your home, and it's time to recognize you, and we need to educate. So thank you for your work and spreading that news. In closing, we have 3 final lightning bolt questions. What visual image do you hate?
I hate cultural appropriation. I've seen a lot of that and it turns me off.
What do you love?
I love tools, the latest and greatest. I just have to have them.
And what excites you for the future?
I want to incorporate sign language into my artwork. That's what excites me right now.
Fantastic. This interview has been amazing. It's been very powerful. I've learned a lot from you as an Indigenous artist. Thank you for spending some time with us today.
Thank you for having me, Hoden. Deaf tea is awesome. Thank you.
My pleasure.